The story begins with Frank Morris, a cunning and dangerous thief. After being caught in a bank robbery case, he is sentenced to life imprisonment. And now, he is being taken to the world's most secure prison, Alcatraz. But Alcatraz was no ordinary prison. Built on a small island, escape from here was considered impossible. Even if a prisoner somehow broke through the walls, the endless ocean surrounding the island would block every path to freedom. That's why Alcatraz was known as the most secure prison in the world. It housed only the most feared criminals alive. But soon, the reputation of this prison was about to shatter. Because a new inmate had just arrived, Frank Morris, a man infamous for breaking out of jails multiple times before. This time, though, things were different. The brutal security of Alcatraz was enough to make even Morris nervous. Yet, one thing was certain, he wasn't going to spend the rest of his life here. Escape was the only option. The story begins with Frank Morris, a cunning and dangerous thief. After being caught in a bank robbery case, he is sentenced to life imprisonment. And now, he is being taken to the world's most secure prison, Alcatraz. But Alcatraz was no ordinary prison. Built on a small island, escape from here was considered impossible. Even if a prisoner somehow broke through the walls, the endless ocean surrounding the island would block every path to freedom. That's why Alcatraz was known as the most secure prison in the world. It housed only the most feared criminals alive. But soon, the reputation of this prison was about to shatter. Because a new inmate had just arrived, Frank Morris, a man infamous for breaking out of jails multiple times before. This time, though, things were different. The brutal security of Alcatraz was enough to make even Morris nervous. Yet, one thing was certain, he wasn't going to spend the rest of his life here. Escape was the only option. As soon as he entered, Morris went through a full body search and was locked inside a small, cold cell. A guard smirked and said, "Welcome to Alcatraz." And from here, the real story begins. Suddenly, a bell rings. All the cells unlock automatically, and the prisoners are ordered to step out. Alcatraz followed the strictest discipline. Cleanliness, strict schedules, and identical uniforms. No excuses, no exceptions. The inmates line up and move toward the breakfast hall. Morris sits across from an old prisoner named Litmus. Morris complains, "I didn't even get a fork. How am I supposed to eat these noodles?" Litmus chuckles. "This isn't your home, kid. Eat with whatever you've got." Just then, the atmosphere shifts. The most feared prisoner of Alcatraz, Wolf, begins mocking Morris. Wolf was notorious. Every inmate feared him. His list of crimes was endless, including multiple assaults and brutal dominance over other prisoners. Inside these walls, Wolf made his own rules. Meanwhile, Litmus asks Morris for some food. Without hesitation, Morris slides his plate toward him. But as Morris glances under the table, he's shocked. Litmus isn't eating the food. Instead, he's quietly feeding it to a rat. Night falls. Suddenly, a guard escorts Morris out of his cell, straight to the warden's office. And from this moment, the story takes a darker, more dangerous, and thrilling turn. A guard escorts Morris to the warden's office. The moment Morris enters, the warden fixes his cold eyes on him and says, "I know you're sharp, Morris. Intelligent. Clever. But none of that matters here. Many like you have come and gone. Yet no one has ever escaped Alcatraz. Here, you follow strict rules. You get only one visitor every 2 months if I'm in a good mood. And remember, if you ever think of escaping, you'll be cut into pieces." The warden was ruthless, one mistake, and a prisoner faced brutal punishment. Morris forces a smile and replies, "Sir, with you watching over this place, who would dare think of escaping?" But deep inside, he had already started planning his way out from the very first day. As he leaves, Morris discreetly steals the warden's nail cutter, a small, almost useless object. But in Alcatraz, Morris knew even the smallest tool could mean the difference between freedom and a lifetime behind bars. Back in his cell, he hides the cutter inside a Bible. The next day, in the bathroom, Wolf begins harassing him again. But this time, Morris snaps. He unleashes his fury, beating Wolf mercilessly. From that moment, Morris earns respect and fear from the entire prison. Soon, Morris is assigned work in the library, where he meets English, a senior inmate who had spent half his life inside for committing 2 murders. English knew every corner of Alcatraz, every whisper, every secret. He already knew about Morris's fight with Wolf. English hands Morris a stack of books, instructing him to deliver them cell by cell. Later, in the yard, prisoners are busy playing games. Here, Morris meets Doc, an old artist painting his own portrait. Doc was calm, decent, and had survived the madness of Alcatraz through art. He tells Morris, "In a place like this, men lose their minds. But painting, it keeps me sane." Morris points to a flower in Doc's painting and asks, "Why paint this flower? It's not even on your shirt." Doc smiles sadly. "That flower is my happiness. It exists only in my painting. Not in my heart." Looking around, Morris spots English watching from above. As he approaches, English's men try to stop him, but English signals, "He's one of us. Let him through." Morris sits beside him and gets straight to the point. "I want to escape. Will you help me?" English laughs bitterly. "Escape? Son, this isn't just a prison. This is our grave. The only way we leave is in a coffin. Let's say you somehow climb these massive walls, dodge the armed guards, even survive their bullets. What then? The ocean will swallow you whole. Don't waste your time. Serve your sentence quietly. At least you'll live." But Morris was determined. No warning could shake his resolve. That night, a guard informs him, "From tomorrow, you'll work in carpentry. 50 cents an hour." Morris agrees instantly. Tools meant opportunities. The next day, he asks Litmus about escape routes. Litmus grins. Simple. Every cell has an air vent. Through it, you can reach the roof. Maybe then, you'll find a way out. And he walks away, laughing. Suddenly, Doc warns Morris. "Wolf is coming for you." Wolf lunges at Morris with a knife. Morris quickly wraps his coat around his arm, defending himself. A guard intervenes, but Wolf stabs him too. Alarms blare. From the watchtower, a guard opens fire. Only then does the fight stop. Morris hadn't realized every move inside Alcatraz was watched. Now, he began noticing every detail, every weakness. Both Morris and Wolf are thrown into D-Block, the prison's darkest punishment cells. Pitch black. Endless torture. A place no inmate wanted to end up in. Before entering, Wolf threatens him. "Your death will be by my hands." Inside, Morris suffers brutal punishments, leaving him half dead. 2 weeks later, he's dragged back to his cell. There, Litmus secretly sends him a note delivered by his pet rat. It reads, "Welcome back, Morris." Soon after, a new prisoner named Charlie is placed in the cell beside him. Morris quickly befriends him and introduces him to the others. But just then, without warning, the warden begins a surprise inspection. Checking every prisoner's cell, one by one. And what he finds next will change everything. When the warden enters Doc's cell, he finds it filled with paintings, dozens of them, covering the walls. The warden is surprised, almost impressed. Among them, Doc had even painted the warden's portrait. The warden smirks strangely at the sight. But the next day, without explanation, he orders all of Doc's paintings to be thrown out. This decision shatters Doc's spirit. His art was his only reason to stay sane inside Alcatraz. To him, those paintings were not just colors on paper, they were his only joy. And now, even that was taken away. Morris tries to console him. "It's okay, document. They were just paintings. You can make more." But Doc is broken beyond words. The following day, Morris pleads with a guard. "Please, keep an eye on document. He looks disturbed. I'm afraid he might hurt himself. The guard dismisses him coldly. Mind your own business. Soon, Doc is assigned carpentry work alongside Morris. While working, Doc secretly slips something into Morris's pocket. Moments later, he calls a guard and without warning grabs an axe. In a horrifying act, he chops off 3 of his own fingers. Fingers that can't paint. I don't need them anymore. Doc screams in agony as guards restrain him and drag him away. When Morris checks his pocket, he finds a flower, the same flower Doc once painted. It was Doc's final message: "They took away my happiness, now it belongs to you." Furious, Morris collects Doc's severed fingers in a box, throws it toward a guard and says, "Go give this to your warden. He'll be pleased." That night, back in his cell, Morris notices a cockroach crawling into the air vent. It sparks an idea: there must be a way out through these vents. English later explains the truth. Doc cut off his fingers because painting was banned for him. That was the only thing keeping him alive. Hearing this, Morris clenches his fists in rage. The next day, in the dining hall, the warden asks Morris, "Why are you so concerned about Doc?" Morris replies calmly, "I'm not. Nothing like that." He walks away and joins his table. There, he meets 2 brothers, John and Clarence. To everyone's surprise, Morris speaks to them as if they've known each other for years. Turns out, the brothers had once been part of Morris's old gang in another prison. Sharp-minded like Morris, they too had been dreaming of escape. Now, with Morris, John, Clarence, and the newly desperate Charlie, the team was forming. Charlie's girlfriend visits him, while on the other side, English's daughter arrives. English's eyes well with tears. His daughter had grown up without him, and he could never witness her childhood. Meanwhile, Charlie's wife delivers crushing news. "Your mother is sick. The doctor says she won't survive more than a few months." Charlie's heart breaks. The moment the guard ends the meeting, Charlie is restless. That night, he tells Morris, "If you're planning to escape, count me in." The very next day, the 4 men gather in secret. Morris shares his plan. Every cell has an air vent. It leads to the roof. Also, because this island is surrounded by salty water, the walls have grown weaker over time. I already have a nail cutter. I've started digging. Slowly, I can carve a tunnel to reach the top. Once we inspect the roof, we'll know the way out. John raises a concern. "But what if the guards notice you missing from your cell at night?" Clarence smiles. "I have a solution. There's a barber here I know. He can get us hair clippings. With that, we'll make dummy heads and place them on our beds. The guards won't suspect a thing." The plan sounds promising, except for one problem: the ocean. Morris turns to John. "That's where I'll need you. You work in the clothing department, right? Steal some raincoats made for the guards. We'll stitch them into a raft and life vests. That's how we'll cross the water." Charlie jumps in. "And me? Give me a job too. I want to help." Morris nods. "When I dig the vent, you stand guard. If anyone comes, warn me. And when it's your turn to dig, I'll guard you." The group agrees, and that very night, the escape work begins. Morris struggles. Digging with the small nail cutter is painfully slow and exhausting. His hands blister, his knuckles bleed. Still, he keeps scraping the wall, inch by inch. The next day at lunch, Morris whispers to his team, "We need a bigger tool. This nail cutter is useless." His eyes fall on a spoon in his hand. A wicked idea forms. He deliberately dirties the spoon by rubbing it against his shoe. Then he calls the guard and complains, "This spoon is filthy. Bring me another one." Morris asks for another spoon. Soon others join him, asking guards to replace their spoons too. The guard doesn't suspect anything and allows the exchange. Morris walks straight to the table where a security guard sits. As he pretends to swap his spoon, John distracts the guard with conversation. Taking advantage of the diversion, Morris pockets 2 spoons, one tucked secretly into his shoe, and slips back to his cell. That night English brings books, and Morris asks quietly, "Is there any welding equipment here?" English reads Morris like an open book, the escape fever still burns inside him. He warns Morris again, escape is madness, he's seen men die trying. Morris listens but doesn't flinch. The next morning Morris asks Litmus for matches. He bargains, "Help me, and I'll feed your rat from my share every day." Litmus, who loves his rat dearly, accepts. That night Litmus hands Morris the matches. Morris removes a handle from the nail cutter and fashions it into a tiny pick. He breaks a spoon and rigs it to the nail cutter handle. Using the matches he carefully welds the 2 pieces together, creating a sharp, crude digging tool. They begin to scrape around the vent. Charlie stands guard. If a guard approaches, he must blow a whistle to signal Morris. Fatigue pulls at Charlie's eyes and he dozes. A guard appears. Luck favors them. English steps in, distracting the guard with a conversation just long enough for Charlie to wake and for Morris to press himself flat beneath the covers. The guard sniffs the air, suspicious, something burning? Morris swallows his fear and replies smoothly, "Not on my watch, sir." The guard leaves. Morris pries concrete from the vent's perimeter, but discovers the ventilation grill is bolted in with heavy screws. He needs a sharper tool. Every spare moment he sneaks cement crumbs out and hides them. On carpentry duty he lifts a sharp strip of metal, but the detector at the door nearly betrays him. He claims the metal is for hanging clothes. A guard confiscates the piece. What the guard doesn't know is Morris stole 2, one he carried, the other hidden in his shoe. That hidden piece becomes their blade, it cuts through the grill. Now they must make the dummy heads. Charlie asks a guard for paint, claiming an art hobby. The guard obliges. Morris grinds the removed concrete into powder, John brings gathered hair clippings from the barber, and Clarence collects old magazines from the library. Using water, magazine pulp, paint and hair, they craft lifelike heads, paint them, and glue the hair on. They also fashion a faux cardboard facade to hide the tunnel opening from a casual inspection. One night Morris decides to go up alone. He places a dummy head on the bed, tucks it under the blanket to the neck, and slips the cardboard in place. Then, carrying his fake skull and tools, he squeezes through the newly carved tunnel. He finds the pipes and climbs slowly toward the roof. Below, Charlie keeps watch. On the roof Morris reaches a metal grill, far out of reach and secured high above. A guard questions Charlie about the late-night painting and why Morris fell asleep early. Nervous, Charlie stammers that Morris was exhausted from carpentry. The guard bends to retrieve his dropped baton and, while reaching, notices Morris's hair odd in its arrangement. Panic hits Charlie, but Morris had just managed to slide back under the covers in time. Back with the team the next day, Morris reports, there is a way onto the roof, but a heavy iron grill blocks the path and it's fixed high above. He needs another man. John grins, I finished my vent, tonight I'll make it up there too. That night Morris and John climb through their vents and meet on the roof. John hauls Morris up, Morris grabs the grill. It is thick, rusted, and heavier than either expected, a solid barrier, not meant to be moved by hands alone. They know now they must force it open. Together they begin to work quietly, levering with stolen metal, using the crude blade to pry at the bolts, while below their comrades stand guard, ready to cover any alarm. Every scrape and grunt is a countdown. They are past the point of no return, the hole in the wall, the dummy heads, the raft plan, everything hinges on this grill giving way.